and you yourself have experienced an immense amount of grief. Losing not just your dad, but your late husband as well. And what was that journey like for you?
It was really tough. I think, like I said, my dad passed away now 22 years, and my late partner passed away 10 years ago. Unfortunately, you're always surrounded by losing family members, losing friends, and a lot of the time when I lost people close to me, it was really sudden. In the sense that it wasn't like a prolonged illness or anything like that. It was very sudden. I had already developed like anxiety towards life. So my dad's death, as well as my late husband's, both were also just as sudden in a sense, one very sudden and one also just very unexpectedly sudden. I couldn't believe it was kind of happening again, where I just almost started trusting in life again, and something life-changing happened. It's unfortunate so many people go through it, but I think the person going through it, like, it really affects them. And for me, it is one of the deaths that have really affected me in some surprising way. It may not have been full term, it may not have even, been far along, but it felt like a real loss for me because I think it happened within me.
The 4 stages of grief. Can you just give us a breakdown of, step 1 to step 4?
So step 1 is denial. My late husband was sick with an autoimmune disease. At 30, it's a lot. I knew it was gonna happen, but not facing that it happened. And so I think everyone goes through it, like, you don't truly accept it. And then the second one is anger. That's like probably a really powerful one. You get angry at everything. The next one, the bargaining phase, the like, what ifs? What if things were different? Or what if they would like me to do this? That was the vulnerable part for me. Then you'll experience depression, because that is where you don't see the light. Yeah. You've done all this sort of reasoning. You've had your outburst, but still nothing's making sense. Like, from you, it can be as simple as that. Like, go and just release it somewhere. Now when I'm kind of getting into like healing and understanding it all and actually processing it all.
You founded MindSelf Kids. What was the inspiration behind that?
Teaching and being surrounded by kids always brought me joy. When my son turned 2, I wanted to start like my own little kids yoga practice. So that's the kids yoga bit. And then I also do trauma sensitive yoga for adults.
Hi guys. Before we dive into today's episode, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you've been enjoying the conversations here on Zen and Now, whether it's helped you reflect, grow, or just feel a little bit more seen, take a second to hit that subscribe or follow button on whatever platform you're listening on. Subscribing means you won't miss a single episode, and it also helps more people discover the show, people who might really need these kind of real and honest conversations. And if you're feeling extra generous, leave a quick rating or review. It honestly makes a huge difference and keeps the podcast going strong. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome back to Zen and Now. On today's episode, I've got someone really special joining me, a childhood friend, Shainal Nana. She's a trauma-sensitive yoga instructor and the founder of MindSelf Kids. Shainal's doing some amazing work helping kids connect with themselves, building resilience and healing through yoga. We'll dive into her journey and what it truly means to bring mindfulness to the next generation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, like you said, we go back so many years. So I feel like you said, this is kind of like a full circle moment for us, I think,
Yeah.
Sharing sort of a same sort of vision and purpose, I think.
Yeah. For listeners who don't know, I mean, we grew up, it's in our early years, probably 6, 7 years old.
But, yeah.
Maybe even earlier.
Yes, exactly. We probably know each other since birth.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. Because our dads were best friends. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, Shayna, coming back to all of it, full circle, our families go back generations, and what's the earliest memories about us visiting each other? Just to give a little bit of context into the podcast.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I grew up, and I think we grew up, you and I, in the sense that like both of our families enjoyed socializing. They placed like a lot of value on keeping that connection with friends and families. And like I come from a family, a big family on my maternal side and my paternal side. So I grew up constantly with cousins and grannies and uncles and aunts, almost every weekend, sometimes every day as well. So yeah, I think it's a big part of who I am. That whole community and family aspect, and I think it's something I cherish a lot and I value a lot. Even us, like as much as maybe we haven't connected over the years, you just reconnect and you just pick up wherever you've left off. So it's a good
Yeah,
feeling. Yeah,
exactly what you said there. Sometimes the universe just brings it full circle, and we
exactly.
don't really expect or know how people come back into our lives or actually leave our lives, but
Yeah,
we don't really think about it until there's a moment of requirement, or there's a moment of, yes, I need this right now, and then you kind of reconnect. And I feel
yeah,
our journey, how we reconnected, is now because of the podcast, and the
yes,
journey that you've been on. It's come full circle, and we've now reconnected to share your story. And I'm excited also to hear about your journey, and also give the listeners just a bit of a in-depth
okay.
view or perception of what you've been through in life.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
sharing it here in this space.
So you've had a very close relationship with your dad and your paternal dad. Um, what was that like growing up, especially with your mom as well? Growing up.
Um, Both my parents, like I said, they are such warm and open people that so growing up in our household, we were constantly surrounded by people, or we were either, out with people because they both placed like a lot of importance on our relationships with others within maybe our community as well as like the family. So, yeah, both my parents were really giving in the sense that of their time, but as well as of their love. So they loved being there for people, but also for us. So they included us in all of this. So yeah, I think the foundation that they gave me was that be there for people, hold those relationships close to you, and so because of watching them and their characters being, such giving and warm people, like my dad truly modeled what like charity looked like, or what being part of a family should look like,
Hmm.
So through all of that, I mean, my dad's now passed away 22 years, but those things I've never forgotten, and I hold on to it and I miss it because I really see it being modeled, by anybody else. So there's already that void in my life that I know something's missing, or someone's
Mm.
input in my life is missing.
Yeah. I remember your dad and mom being so kind-hearted, and every time we would visit or be in a social setting, they would all be so kind towards us. And I remember a story when we used to have get-togethers, and all our dad's friends used to and families used to get together, like at people's houses, or at each other's houses. I think once a month, right? And we'd
Yes,
all come
it was on.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a social setting. The kids would be one side, the dads would be playing
yeah,
poker, cards, and the moms would be on one side. And you guys had a pool, I
yes,
remember, and
yes,
I think I had some form of accident, and I remember my costume, something happened to it, and like you said, your dad was and mom was so giving that they offered me another set of shorts, so I could go back into the pool.
yeah, yeah.
Those are the fun memories we take back.
No, yeah, exactly. And that's exactly who they were. And they loved it. Like And like at times, I think my brother and I didn't like the fact that we didn't have our own space and privacy in our home because it was so busy and full all the
Mm.
time. But on the other hand, I think, it was such a nice, it was such a beautiful childhood because the house was like, our house was always full. And like you said, the pool that we had, that was like our sort of space where we would just have people over and
Mhm.
entertain. And yeah, and we loved it. We really loved it as a family.
Yeah. Funny enough, you stayed actually right next door to my wife right now. So I
Even
didn't even
more
know at
full
the time.
circle, even more full circle.
Yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
we have this discussion now and then
Yeah.
where Tejal would be like, I used to come over sometimes, because her mom used to cook for
Okay.
us.
Yes. Yes.
And, she used to help your mom cater
Mm,
for
mm.
the gathering,
For
and
the get,
probably
yes.
probably Tejal was there, and I just didn't even
She
know.
was. She was. She used to sometimes sit in. But
Yeah.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy how it all just plays out. Yeah.
How did your relationship with your brother develop over the years?
Yeah. So my brother and I, there's just an 18-month age gap. So we're pretty close in age. So growing up, whether it was in the neighborhood or whether at school, even out of school, we always kind of had a same circle of friends because of us being the same age. So,
Hmm.
we sort of formed the same circle of friends. So we actually grew up being like best friends. He was my best friend and probably still is one of my best friends, and I think my brother's not someone that generally would maybe just be emotionally open, but his presence and his his support is like undeniable. Like I know it's there. So we grew up really counting on each other, really being each other's support. And I think both of us losing my dad when he was 16 and I was
Hmm.
18, um, it just like solidified that bond because we saw each other probably at our lowest and we were there to actually pick each other up and see each other through.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a beautiful bond and I'm so glad that like him and I are part of each other's lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that support, the sibling support also is very important in those times.
It's
And
very important, and there's times you misunderstand each other, and there is times that you grow apart because you both maybe. I mean, everybody deals with things differently. Everybody handles emotions differently. So same with us. There's probably instances where we couldn't be there or show up for each other truly, but there were times we were able to move past that because we knew where we could show up for each other maybe in a better way. So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's beautiful. I think a lot of people have that kind of relationships and some don't. I think it
Yeah.
just depends on, what you guys feel is important at the time, because not all siblings get along at times,
Yes. Yes.
and some would
100%.
actually, take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Exactly. And I feel like, there's times we were at points where we just couldn't, believe that that's our sibling or, that
Hmm.
that's how maybe we handling it so differently, certain things. But I feel like, you know, we grew through that. We really did grow through that. And at times when he's needed me, I've dropped everything to be there
Hmm.
and similar with him. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's important in times of grief as well.
Yes.
And you yourself have experienced an immense amount of grief,
Yeah.
losing not just your dad, but your late husband and well as well. And, may their souls rest in peace. What was that journey like for you? And, what was the feelings you were going through?
Mm. It was really tough. I think, like I said, my dad passed away now 22 years. And my late partner passed away 10 years ago. But throughout my life, I think even if I look at my childhood, like I said, I come from a big family on both sides. So growing up, unfortunately, you're always surrounded by losing family members, losing friends, and a lot of the time when I lost people close to me, it was really sudden, in the sense that it wasn't like a prolonged illness or anything like that.
Mm.
It was very sudden. So because of all these sudden and unexpected deaths, like I had already developed like anxiety towards life, I would say, because I
Right.
couldn't trust in, things maybe going good or there not being an unexpected event. So even before like weddings or before even traveling, like I'm almost anticipating something bad happening
Uh,
because that's how we kind of grew up. But what's was my dad's death, um, as well as my late husband's, both were also just as sudden in a
mm.
sense, one very sudden and one also just very unexpectedly sudden. So that also just really shook me. Like I couldn't believe it was kind of happening again where I just almost started trusting in life again and, you know,
Mm.
something life changing happened. So I think, I would say about in 2014, when I lost, my late husband, I think by then I was so numb of
Mm.
death and of things going wrong for me. Um, in 2014, in the earlier part of the year, I also suffered a miscarriage, and I think as much as like I think it's a common thing we in the sense that it's unfortunate so many people go through it, but
Mhm.
I think the person going through it, like it really affects them, and for me, it is one of the deaths that have really affected me in some
Mhm.
surprising way. It may not have been full term, it may not have even, been far along, but it felt like a real loss for me because I think it happened within me. So
Yeah.
that year was really hard for me. And I'll be honest, I don't even think at that point in my life I even dealt with my dad's death.
Oh, okay.
So by then I just felt defeated. I really felt defeated by life and I felt
Mhm.
defeated by what was happening. So I just almost felt like I was in a freeze state, a freeze state of
Mm.
trauma. Like I
Yeah.
was just unaware of what was happening. Like I knew it, like you can see it, you
Yeah.
know it, you know what your reality is, but you don't even know how to process it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't even know how to cry. It sounds that bad, but I didn't know how to cry. And for even say a few years after 2014, I would attend even funerals of people maybe I knew and people who maybe I was close to, and couldn't even feel I couldn't
Yeah.
feel that, like, So I think I was in a complete state of just either denial or either just shock and freeze
No,
state.
the body goes through that in
Yeah,
that moment because, like you said, it was unexpected.
yeah,
You don't expect these things to happen, especially, for young people in that moment.
yes, yes.
And, I know you guys have been, you guys were probably just newlyweds in that time in terms of
Yeah.
the stages of where you were in your marriage. It's not like
Yes.
you were far along 20, 30 years on and you had spent so much of time together. And also
Yeah,
with your
exactly.
dad,
Yeah.
I remember that phone call we got, when he passed away as well. We were also in that state of shock. We might not
Yeah.
have been related by blood
Mhm.
or connection, but because of the relationships we grew up with and created, we felt something. And it was very
Yes.
sad that,
Yeah.
now this person, this loving person has left,
No,
his soul
exactly.
has moved on. How do you process that? And this comes back, and I come back to this point all the time where we don't have that kind of support structure
Mhm.
or people will come up to you and help you or it's even give you a resource or a guide to say, hey, call this number or go speak to this person because professionally, they will be able to help you process
Yeah.
what you're feeling. And
Yeah.
now, thankfully, in this moment in time, we have those resources available, and we should make those resources available to people who actually went through something like yourself. But back in the day, there was nothing. And I
No.
would share something from my end. When when I was going through, my darkest periods of life, we didn't we weren't brave enough to say I need help, because we always wanted to deal things by ourselves, because we wanted
Mm.
to feel strong enough within our own self. It's nothing less of you to ask for help. It
No.
doesn't make you less of a person if you say, "Hey, I need help today." So
That.
I feel you probably were in that state where you didn't know and who to turn to. There were no resources for you to help you through along. And let's be honest, a lot of people don't actually go through what you did.
Mm.
So there's not a lot of people who can understand what you're feeling as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly that. I think. I mean, it's so hard for people, say for instance, at the first time when I became a widow, it's so hard. And I can only now think back and imagine how hard it might have been, for example, even my brother now to see
mm,
me go through this, friends, family. So people don't know maybe what you need. So they also just go with what they get, like from you, like maybe what vibe you putting through. But I feel like for me, um, I didn't know it. I didn't know that. Um, Maybe at that point, and I really can't like even pinpoint if they were like, hey, maybe go see a therapist or maybe do
yeah,
this or maybe even just join a gym. It can be as simple as
mm,
that, like go and just release it somewhere. But, instead, like, I also didn't. Now when I'm kind of getting into like healing and understanding it all and actually processing it all, I'm like, sure, I can look at the steps of, say, for example, grief and be like,
hmm,
but this is exactly what I went through. I can like pinpoint years, events, dates to it. And at that point, even if you had told me, Shani, read up on grief, like read up on what you're going to go through, or this is it. Like maybe I wouldn't have also been able to even be aware that this is what
yeah,
I'm feeling, but you're right. I feel, it's so hard. It's very hard for people to empathize or truly empathize with someone when they're going through something. And it's even harder for the person who's going through it because you really don't even know how to explain it. You don't even
yeah,
know what version of yourself people are expecting, whether they're expecting the version of you before the loss, maybe the happy, the bubbly version of you,
mm,
or maybe they're expecting a down version because they now notice that you've gone through something. So the expectations are just, I think, unrealistic in a way
yeah,
for everyone, even the person. Because, for example, when my dad passed away, nobody told me to be like take on any sort of role, but I put that pressure on myself, and I was like, okay, no, my mom's alone now. I'm the eldest child. Let me take on this like caretaker role, of my mom and my brother.
mm,
And I got stuck in that role. And that's why I say I don't think I processed his loss for a long time because I went almost into this like caretaker role there. And
yeah,
and I think, like I say, by the time, um, 2014 came and I went through another loss, I then also just took on another role where I just like either drowned myself in work or I was like, you know what, I'm still young, I'm 30 now, and I felt betrayed by life and I just really felt
yeah,
let down by everything. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna now just do me, which also at that point I didn't realize, what that actually meant because for the first time in my life, I was truly alone.
yeah. You
Yeah.
felt alone because of the loss and
Yeah.
the betrayal, like you said, of life. And
Hmm.
probably you weren't generally alone, but you felt alone.
No, exactly.
There's a difference between the two. Yeah, I think a lot of us,
Yes,
we say alone, and we automatically think, yeah, we're just alone in
yeah.
this world. There's nobody
But
gonna
I
be able to.
was also alone in the sense so for a bit, I had amazing support. I stayed with like a really close cousin, sister of mine, and that was amazing because that really gave me a lot of comfort in the initial months, of my loss.
Hmm.
But when I say alone, like I said, I had moved out of home for a long time by then. I had been out of home, like, for a long time. So for
Yeah.
me, I kind of still wanted to hold on to that independence of being, you know, having my own space. But so I would come home and be alone, because, my mom isn't like lives in another province and so does my brother now at this
Hmm.
stage in our life or at that stage in our life already. So I was alone and it really sometimes wasn't a good feeling, but then I couldn't sit with it. Like I couldn't sit with that being alone.
Hmm.
I wouldn't do what I do now. So I wouldn't just, you know, do a yoga sort of sequence to just get my mind at ease. I wouldn't read. But back then I just wanted to distract myself. So I'd either like binge watch series or I'd go out, look for any excuse to kind of just get out of the house so I'm not
Yeah.
alone in that space. So I think, yeah, it wasn't, it for me, it wasn't a nice space to be in because I really just didn't know where to even begin protesting.
Hmm.
Like
I
it
think.
was like a complete loss of identity. Like, who am
So you
I?
kind of had to
If
rebuild.
yes, like which friends do I still have? Like because um you want to kind of you want to like kind of find yourself, but then you're also so scared and you attach yourself to your old identities, and
Hmm.
like there's just a misalignment in that, like, because you don't know where to fit in, you don't know which circles to fit in with, you just feel lost. And then so because you feel lost, you immediately then isolate, which isn't good also,
Yeah.
and because
Yeah.
then you're like, you don't have it in you. You don't have it in you to even make small talk because you don't know what people want to talk to you about, whether they want to talk to you about your past, whether they want to talk to you about your future. No, like you don't know. And so I think for me, the dangerous part came between like 2017, 2018, where I just noticed I started isolating myself,
Okay.
and not deliberately. Like I would commit to plans and I would say, I would in that moment be so excited and commit to it because I'm excited to go out and be with people. And then come the day, it's just like anxious thoughts. Um, you know, what if people talk to me about like, at that time people would be like, oh, you should get married again, or are you dating? And I'm like, I don't even know what I want. Like I don't know, you know and and or even if at that point, if for example maybe I was interested in it, like what do I say? Is that what people really want to hear from me, or is it just like, a conversation topic? You don't know. So I think you become so guarded and you overthink and you just spiral. And
Yeah.
then and that's what, like, kind of the phase I was in for, I would say, a good year and a half. I was just lost, like
Hmm.
lost, um, distracting myself, just doing what I think a lot of people who go through that like do, and you don't realize you're doing it. And in that,
Yeah.
I probably wasn't looking after myself in terms of like nourishing myself well because
Hmm.
I was so down that like some days I would just switch off my phone and not even want to hear from anybody,
Yeah. No, I get
because
that.
I didn't know how to explain myself. I didn't know what to ask for.
Hmm.
And I also felt like I didn't want to be like, oh, oh, here's Shani, shame. She's gone through this. And, unfortunately, she's still stuck there. Or poor Shani, like life's just been. And I
Yeah.
didn't want that. I really didn't want that. I really, and I had great, and I'm going to emphasize, I had great support. I had a great inner circle that saw through that saw through
Hmm.
the isolating, that saw through the you know, they just saw me and picked it up and said no. But now this is just like becoming a pattern where she cancels. And people who I would really genuinely want to see, I would do that to them as well. And they picked up. And my mom, so I'm saying like my inner circle knew me so well that they immediately acted on it. And I'm so thankful to them for that because my granny came to stay with me, to cook for me, because she
Wow.
noticed I was losing weight. And I didn't
Yeah.
even notice I was losing weight, but she noticed. And she came to stay with me, to cook for me. My granny's sister would phone me and be like, I'm sending your favorite food over. I had aunts coming to fetch me and just make sure that I was okay because, I think at that point everybody saw how sort of depressed I was at a stage. I had my now husband was my best friend at that time, and he stuck through by my side through that phase, also knowing that at the end of the day, like that wasn't who I was. It's
Right.
just, she's just really breaking down.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break. Mm.
And my mom is really phenomenal, Kishan. Like, you know, she immediately took me and to her place and she says, I need you to stay with me for a bit, just till like we figure this out. And
Yeah.
like at times she even attended like counseling with me. And I know it was hard for her to hear sometimes that like, there was unmet, expectations or needs from my side.
No,
But
of course.
shame, she really, really stuck by my side. And so did like my now husband, and so did my
Mm.
brother, and so did like, so many people, like cousins of mine. And so, you find your circle and they really, um, they're your reality check. They're your
For
reality
sure.
check. And you have to trust that they are a group of people who know you, but those are the same people that know your core. They know you,
Mm.
they know who you were, they know your heart. So
Yes.
at that point, I was angry. I would say sometimes hurtful things to people I love just to kind of make them distance themselves from me. Or I would really just not even reply to messages because I just, yeah,
You couldn't.
I couldn't. I really couldn't.
Yeah.
But, like I said, my mom was the first person who actually took me to a yoga class.
Oh, wow.
And she attended it with me. And she's like, let's just get it, like, let's try it. And we went for this yoga class together. And I think she was like, no, this isn't for me. But I loved it because for the first time during Savasana, when you actually lay
Yes.
down and you lay still and you just breathe. And I think the yoga instructor at that time said, I'm going to give you a choice here. You either can keep your arms, like your hands open to receive, or you can like keep your hands down to if you want to give back or just say thanks.
Mm.
And in that moment, I didn't even feel like I wanted to receive. So I didn't receive. And I just like put my hands down and I was just like, you know what? Like, thank you. And like, I felt so supported in that moment because I thought of everybody in that like period of my
Moment.
darkness that was there for me. And like, I just felt so much grounding. And so slowly after that practice, I just developed this like love for yoga because
Yeah.
every time I go for yoga and every time I sat in Savasana, I would cry. And for the first time after many years, that was the first time I could naturally cry,
Right.
not out maybe having a drink or a glass of wine and you get emotional and you cry, not that cry.
No,
And
this was
it was a
genuine.
genuine, like something's being released, like, you like it just felt different. And I think
Yeah.
that's where my whole healing journey began. And and it's opened up so much more to me on just like figuring myself out, figuring my grief out, and even just also just finding so much peace in my dad's loss and,
Right.
you know, Hasil's loss and also my miscarriage. And yeah,
Mm.
it's the
So
now
I
when I
think,
sit and think of it, it's just like, okay, it's peace. And now I can light a candle for them and talk to them as like, as I'm just having a conversation with just,
conversation. Yeah.
yes, it was just like, hey, what, wherever you are and whatever this journey was, like, like, you know, the love is still there. So I'm going to continue with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I guess there's a moments in life where you have that penny drop, and probably that yoga class was for you when your mom took you
Yeah.
there. It's
It,
you don't
yeah,
really expect it. It's not
no,
like you went searching for it.
no,
Similar to me when you know that moment where you realize, okay, this is what I'm meant to do with my life. But we have to
it's,
go through those kind of
yes,
phases in life where
yeah.
it gets you to that point in time. And when that
And
penny
that,
drops, then that's like an aha moment for you. And that's when you
exactly.
also were able to release. Similar to me when I went to a Buddhist temple in Randburg. And at that point, I was still in very much fight to flight mode.
Okay.
And there's a burst of emotions that I was holding on to. And I just walked into the class, and as soon as I sat down, everything came out. I think I cried for an hour,
Yeah.
but it was a release. It was pure release.
It,
It was like
and
it
that's
wasn't
it.
something that I was anticipating doing. It just felt the right thing to do at that
Mm,
moment, and I feel like that's yours. That's your moment
yeah.
when you felt I can
It,
genuinely cry now. I can
yes,
genuinely release everything that I was holding
yes.
on to.
And through that moment, I then sort of went back and I reflected, and I think, it was like almost a moment that um led me to then just surrendering to that pain and that situation, because I just sat there that night and I'm like, I like, I just kind of said a little prayer or spoke out to the universe in that way. And I was just like, I'm done. Like, I'm done feeling
Mm,
like this. I don't know where the light is. Like, at that point, you don't see the light. You don't know whether there's even good things coming your way or even if you're meant for it. And I just let
exactly.
go and I was like, I'm done. And I think the genuine moment of wanting better for yourself, like you'll change and you'll change that situation in a way that works for you, whether it's through exercise, whether it's through therapy, whether it's whatever it is. I think you have to experience that shift for yourself, as much as
Mm,
people were there and saying, hey, you need to do this, or hey, you need to stop doing this. I wasn't i wasn't prepared for that. Like, I wasn't prepared till I had that moment where I was like, no, like, it's either now I really, 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 look after
need to do
myself
something for
and
yourself.
deal with this and deal with all of this, or then this is just also going to be the rest of my life. And that's not what I
Mm,
wanted. That's not what I
yeah.
wanted. So, yeah. So I think, you know, you have those moments and you have to honor those moments.
Yeah, the rest of your life is a long time to
That's it.
not deal
It
with
is.
something.
Yeah.
But
That's it. It is.
yeah, we touched on what grief is, and
Yeah.
and you've developed, something that we've chatted about, the 4 stages of grief. Can you give
Yes.
us some for somebody who's listening to this right now, and actually in kind of one of those moments? Can you just give us a breakdown of step 1 to step 4?
So step one is
Nope.
denial. And I think everybody goes through it in some way. So for me, for example, like my late husband was, he was, sick, towards the end. He was really sick with an autoimmune disease, um, but like, so we knew physically what was happening. I don't think in terms of the time frame of his diagnosis to his death, we knew that. Nobody knew the
Okay.
the 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 extent of. how soon things would actually happen or how severe it was. And that's the truth. But I think so, even though in my mind I continuously made sense of it, because by then I was like, you in denial like with everything, but like you want to also be prepared. So I think I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, this is going to happen. And him and I would even have conversations about what would happen, you know, when he passes
Wow.
on. And at 30, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, but some light-hearted conversations about it, but some serious ones, we were both kind of preparing ourselves for it. But when it happened, I kind of went into denial in the sense where, oh, I knew it was gonna happen, but not facing that it happened, oh, like
Mm.
just like, oh, I knew it was gonna happen. And so I think everyone goes through it, like you don't truly accept it. It's very hard to genuinely accept it, like I think, you know, immediately. So that's the natural first step of grieving is denial in some
Mm.
form or the other. And then the second one is anger, and I think, that's like probably a really powerful one. And like I told you, I was
Yeah.
also, you get angry at everything. You get angry at life. You get angry at the person that may have passed on for leaving you, maybe when you felt like you needed them the most. You get angry at yourself because you somehow we feel like we're in control of our lives.
For
And,
sure.
and we also then think we're in control of other people's lives because of that. So there's just a lot of anger. So I think, notice those things. And then, like, the next one I think was probably, it's a tricky one because this is like the bargaining phase, the like, what ifs, but like,
Ah.
what if things were different? Or what if they would like me to do this? Or like, so what if I'm doing this? It's fine. Like, and I think that's, for me, that was the vulnerable bit for me, the
Okay.
bargaining bit, because I was lost, and for me, everything was like, it's okay, it's okay. I didn't get my 20s. I didn't really even get my late teens to experience life or to do things. And then I was like, would almost just justify my actions like, oh, okay, it's okay if I go for dinner tonight, dinner for tomorrow night, dinner the next night. And then,
Right.
because I never got that opportunity, or it's okay, I'm alone, so I'll do that. But you don't notice the patterns in that. You don't notice that you're escaping from what your reality truly
Reality is.
is,
Yeah.
So I think that's a tricky one. And then after that, I think because you're so lost and because you like bargaining with yourself and you're bargaining with the situation and you're also just bargaining with life, that's when you'll probably hit rock bottom and then you'll experience depression because that is where you just, I think, don't know. You don't see the
Yeah.
light. You've done all this sort of reasoning. You've had your outburst, but still nothing's making sense. And I think that's where you fall into like that depression where you feel like you're alone. Like you said, you're not alone, but you feel like you're alone.
Is that
And
stage four? Depression is stage
yeah,
four?
that's stage
Okay.
4. That's stage 4. And then the last stage is acceptance.
Okay, so it's like depression slash acceptance. You
Yeah,
kind of
so I
go.
think you have to like that acceptance is like we were saying, in that moment where you know the person's gone. I don't think you even sometimes I think a lot of people know that the person that they love has gone. But the grief is so much more. It's the grief of the like, what ifs. It's the grief of the who am I. It's the grief of your identity. It's the grief of so much time. So, like, and I think once you accept that, hey, this is just maybe the way life was supposed to be. And it's hard. It's really hard to accept it because it's
Mm,
not maybe the way you've wanted it. But if you accept it, like, I think that's where you just sit with a lot more peace
yeah.
and
I think
closure.
a lot of our friends that probably we've known or colleagues, relationships that who have people who have taken their lives because they weren't able to deal with these kind of feelings for so long. And
Yeah.
I go back to so many of my friends who have taken their lives,
Yeah.
and I like you go back to those moments. Could they have said something?
Yeah.
Could you have done something for them in that
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah.
However, when you accept that there's nothing you could have done if they
Yes.
didn't say something or open up about, hey, this is what's going on, there could
Yeah.
have been a moment where timeline shifted in that
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
And you could have stopped the grieving. I mean, you could have stopped your process a long time ago and started living maybe early on.
Yeah.
However, at that moment, you don't, like you said, when you're in those phases, you can't really cognitively function. You can't
You can't. You
accept
can't.
that this is my reality. My past is still
Mm.
playing so
Mm.
much of games with me. It's weighing on my life.
Yeah.
Why? We keep asking the
Yes.
why, but there's that
Yeah.
moment in time when you kind of said, okay, I'm at that acceptance stage of my life,
Mm.
and
Mm.
everything that had happened was meant to happen
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah. And
We
I
don't
think
ask it.
like we don't. And I think like to even experience that acceptance stage, you have to be self-aware. I think
Mhm.
the self-awareness is the biggest thing. The awareness whether you yourself can identify with yourself,
Yeah,
or like in your gut, like this is not like, working out, or this is not how you should be handling it, or, so there are those cries for help that I'm sure your
yeah,
mind telling you and sending you alarms. And I think listen to it, and don't ignore it, and don't be like, don't give up. Also listen to it, do something about it, be aware of it. Once you're aware of it, it's easier to accept it. And then with that self acceptance, I think then there just comes a whole lot of like,
yeah,
self love for yourself. And I think that's where your the like healing begins, where you love yourself because you're like, this isn't my fault. This didn't happen because of me. And once you can let go of that, and you truly just show yourself all that grace. And for me, it was hard because being an anxious person, you think you in control already because you've already like kind of played out the
yeah,
scenario, or you've already kind of, you think you're in control, you're not, but like you'd like to think you are because you've already like experienced it in your mind or whatever it is. But once you let go of that and you just be like, hey, you know what? Like, this is not your fault. Like you were not in control. Like I was not in control of losing my dad at such a young age.
no.
Nobody asked me to take on a role. I did that because that was me, hey, playing it out again,
You're
how it
protecting
should
her.
be. Yes, and how it should be in my mind. But you do all these things. And even when I experience a miscarriage, oh, it must be my fault because it happened in
Mm,
my body, you know. But so once you just show yourself all that grace and you just be like, I'm not actually in control of anything, especially death. Especially death. I'm not in control of it. Like
no.
someone else passing on. And you just kind of, breathe a bit. And you're like, wow,
Yeah,
all this time, all this anxiety, and, it's not even my fault.
no, exactly. Uh,
Yeah.
Before we move on, there's a I have a photo of myself when
Yes.
I was going through that phase, and it's just a reminder for me to not try and repeat those mistakes again.
Yeah.
Is do you have like an image or something that you look back on and think to
Yeah. I
yourself,
do. I do.
you
I
know, you
do.
reminisce and
And it's so I love doing healing, and I love actually meditating for me is it's really important, and I try and do it every day. um there's I'm actually sometimes get like almost a feeling of like addiction towards it because the things I experience, and also sometimes the memories that I can actually go back to while meditating in that stillness. I mean, for me, it's just like incredible. But I have this picture, and I did a meditation not long ago on just sort of, forgiving yourself. And I actually took that picture out and I looked at it and I just burst, like, that cry where it
Emotional.
aches. But I apologized so much to that version of
That
myself
stuff,
for
yeah.
not being maybe this version who could have helped her, or that who knew better, and just always think back, if you didn't know better, if you really truly didn't know better on how to even navigate what you were going through, just like forgive yourself for it. Like everybody's going through it, and everybody's going to deal with it
Hmm.
differently. But, um, lean on your support and also just trust yourself. And when you notice signs that you're not like coping or doing anything, speak up, like really speak up.
Okay. You founded MindSelf Kids. What was the inspiration behind that?
So MindSelf Kids, it's actually, so I became a mom in 2020, and you know um at that time, I also started studying teaching. I think in what was it? 2019. At the beginning of 2019, I decided to go back to full-time studying, and I enrolled for like a teaching course. I think, like I said, I was like kind of on a discovery of like what was going on with me, and I realized that teaching and being surrounded by kids always brought me joy. Like always, from a young
Hmm.
age, I would be that person babysitting or wanting to play with kids. And I just never saw it happening for me at that stage in my life. At 35, I didn't see me becoming a mom. So I was like, let me become a teacher. And then I went and I did a teaching course. But like, I think the universe had its own plans, and I fell pregnant later that year. So my kind of plans to go back and teach were put on hold because I had a baby during COVID. So,
Yeah.
my time was spent with him. But while he was a baby, I did a lot of online courses and studying, and that's when I did a kids yoga course. And when my son turned 2, I wanted to start like my own little kids yoga practice. And I thought of names, and I went like back and forth with kids' names and cute names. And my son never said myself. He could never say myself. He used to say
Ah.
mindself. Like he used to actually pronounce it like mindself. And I'm telling my husband because he was helping me kind of design the whole like logo and everything. And I'm telling him, I want something with like a brain, and I want something with a heart, and like with a like yourself, like, And he's like, hey, why don't we like actually call it mind self? Because like that's what I called it. And
Yeah.
I was like, personal in a way because it reminds me so much of him. And so
Mm.
that's why I was like, let me call it mind self. And it truly is just like looking after your mind and yourself. And that's what the practice I'm hoping will kind of spread.
Amazing. And if
Mm.
people are listening and want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So I do have an Instagram page, MindSelf Kids. And then they can also contact me. I can leave my details with you via WhatsApp. So I do kids yoga, and then the kids yoga is also very mindfulness focused. So it's like movement through mindfulness. So we do a lot of breathing exercises. We also create some mindful crafts like breathing apparatus using paper
Yeah.
cups and sort of things, or we blow bubbles just to help them see how easy intentional breathing can be.
Yeah.
And then we do a bit of movement, gentle movement, and age appropriate movement. So it's for balance. We'd focus on
Right.
balance movement. And I love doing the like sort of nidra, but at the end, it's just like very zen, and just to teach kids that it's also okay to be still, like
Yes.
stillness is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
superpower, like they say.
Yeah.
So,
I wish we had those
just
growing up.
exactly. And so that's the kids part. And I love it. Like I really love it. It brings my inner child a lot of like, joy.
Nice.
And like you said, I wish I also had that growing up, because they
Yeah.
say, I mean, I read a quote the other day and they're like, breathing and just self-regulation is so much. It's like crime prevention, it's addiction
Oh yeah,
prevention,
for sure.
it's so much, right? Like it is so, and if you can teach it at this age, like just how to regulate yourself, how to look for healthier tools when doing or when faced with something, I think, why not do it and why not spread it and why not teach it?
For
So
sure.
that's the kids yoga bit, and then I also do trauma sensitive yoga for adults.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. No, in saying you're providing the world a service that we really need right now, and like you said, if we can regulate or teach regulation of our body and mind very early on in life, kids or even adults will be able to manage certain circumstances in a much more healthier way and much more inner peaceful way, and not carry those burdens with them for so long. They're able
Yeah.
to sit with it and then work through it cognitively. And my next point will come to legacy. Now that you've gone through such a journey in life, going forward, or also before we go forward, looking back, if your dad could see you right now to the woman that you've become, what would he say to you? Or what would you think he would say to you?
I think my dad, no matter what, I think that love was so unconditional. Like it was so
Mm,
unconditional that I know I don't even have to doubt that he'd be proud of me. Like that's how unconditional that bond and that love was. I know people who knew us like would be like, oh my gosh, you were like the apple of your dad's eye. But it was so much
yeah,
more.
for
It was
sure.
like it was a true connection. So I know he'd be so proud of me. I know he is proud of me. I think, um, yeah, I definitely feel it. I feel it and I know it. And I think,
Yeah,
yeah, I just, yeah, it's sometimes I think grief's like the thing, you're never going to get over it. Like, so I'll always long for hearing that and maybe
mm,
experiencing that. But, for now, I just have to like feel it and know that like, hey, you know what, it is there
yeah.
and I don't doubt it. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us,
Oh,
Shainal.
thank you.
I think
Thank you so
it's
much. And
gonna
also, yeah,
it's gonna resonate
thank
with a lot
you.
of people. No,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Thank you for having a
Uh,
platform like this, a safe space where people can share these stories. And my
mhm.
shared story is really just don't give up on yourself. And when you experience something like grief or loss, just um, have a lot of grace for yourself. Don't compare your journey to anybody's journey, and really just seek out help when you feel like you need it.
Yeah. No, thank you
Yeah,
for that. I appreciate that.
yeah. No,
And
thank you.
remember, guys, remember to go out and support Shainal and in her journey. If you're looking for some mindfulness practice, whether it be trauma related, or if you're just in a space where you just want to do it, go ahead and reach out to her, support her channels. And Shainal has taught us so much about acceptance today when we in those moments. And I thank you for sharing that. Remember, guys, to also support this channel by hitting the like, subscribe, and share buttons. Get people involved in it. I would like to know your comments. Leave them below in the description, where I will also leave Shainal's details. So check her out. And until the next one, everybody, stay zen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.